We often hear this referred to as gender dysphoria. This new and contradictory way of identifying one's inner self is contributing to today's society, but not by helpful means, rather proving sometimes reckless and rash. A peaceful community contradicts their own beliefs, as seen in many talk shows across the nation, until their goal of helping someone be what they want is met. Not only is the freedom of Americans at challenge, but relationships with God are growing more and more concerning as time goes on. Social media is controlling the minds of many parents, teachers, and even those who do not have access to it. Children should not have to bear the consequences of poor decision making by all these people, along with the overwhelming pressures of today's society. In recent years, discussions regarding gender identity have become increasingly prevalent, challenging traditional notions and biblical norms, prompting a broader understanding of the diverse spectrum of human experiences. At the heart of this discourse is gender identity, a term that encompasses those whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. The problems of gender affirming care and gender identity are far reaching. Gender identity is a person's innate sense of their gender, while gender affirming care is a process someone goes through matching their physical self with their mental self. Science is the driving force behind all medical issues. The Hippocratic Oath is an oath physicians take stating they will be honest and keep true to the realistic ideas of the world. So why is this changing? Perhaps physicians are not following this oath anymore. One of the most fundamental issues in today's society is that there are two genders. Simply stated, you were born male or female. Because this truth has defined human existence since the beginning of time, it should be illegal and act to change this. Through studying the greatest ancient theorists like Plato and Aristotle, they've helped provide a clear understanding of our 21st century problem we face today. At the heart that we face today, according to Williams Institute, 13% of transgenders are 13 to 17, while another 13% are 18 to 24, and 63% are 25 to 64. Of these percentages, many are forced into decision-making situations where they are not yet giving any counsel on the devastating reality of their choices at such a young age. The lack of historical perspective from philosophers and storytellers is contributing to this cause in more ways than we could imagine. At the age of 12, Chloe Cole began to experience what doctors would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. Her testimony was this: she was well into early puberty when she became uncomfortable with what was happening with her body. When she told her parents she felt like a boy, in retrospect, she explains all she meant is that she hated male attention. She wanted her newfound sexual attention to go away. She came out as transgender in a letter she sent to her parents, and this made her parents grow concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from a medical professional, but this proved to be a mistake. The professional she was taken to told her parents she needed to be put on puberty blockers and testosterone right away without giving any further guidance. And they gave her parents a simple question: would you rather have a living transgender son or a dead daughter? This enabled her parents to let their guards down. At this moment, she explains that her entire family fell victim to gender-affirming care. She was fast-tracked on the puberty blockers and testosterone. She explains how this made focusing on her schoolwork impossible, along with many other impossibilities. She explains in the rest of her testimony that she wishes for the longing of nursing a child or simply having feminine characteristics like she once had. In recent years, discussions regarding gender identity and trans ideology have become increasingly prevalent as political and social issues. We as a society have begun to succumb to political correctness. In other words, we are making things smaller than what they really are. If we have the right to change something God has given us, where does that put us in the favor of God? Genesis 1:26. So God created the world in His image. In His image He created them, male and female, He created them. Social media is contributing to this cause by less than helpful means. If you are to disagree with the opposing view, begin to agree and support a community that cannot keep calm when asked simple and hard questions about their own beliefs. According to the article, Where Evil is Called Good, Washington State has set up policy stating teachers are not to tell parents of their child's gender transition. This notion is spreading through America rapidly and needs to be set to attention. Government agencies have gone so far as to take away the basic rights of parents, knowing simple things about their children. If a parent should have to sign a permission slip stating their kid can go on a field trip to the park, then it's outrageous they are not even told of such simple things. All throughout the Bible, the words male and female are repeated. Deuteronomy 23:1 says, He who hath been wounded in the stones, or hath his private member cut off, shall not be entered into the congregation of the Lord. At one point in time in the Bible, it was understood that changing your gender would certainly lead to eternal damnation, and there was no way around this. So we, as a society, have to consider what changing our gender would mean in the present time and even our future. According to La Trobe University, women have double X chromosomes, while men have an X from their mother and a Y from their father. Let me ask you something. Is a child who feels he's Superman really Superman? Some think if you feel you are something, then you must surely be that thing. Why can't a 20-year-old be a 50-year-old? Well, scientifically, it will never work. If you look past all the short-sighted arguments and extraneous reasonings, you can begin to understand that the problem lies not with someone being something to make them happy, but instead telling a 15-year-old child what they can and can't be based on skewed emotions is. Why are people so scared to disagree and challenge transgenderism, I wondered. Strangely, the media and government has an unusual interest in those lacking political knowledge on the subject matter. Maybe the government is trying to use the trans community as a facade to further something or their own interest, or maybe they're just simply trying to do the right thing. Either way, I feel there is an ulterior motive behind the government's involvement with the trans community than just saying trans rights are human rights. Some may ask, what is the harm in changing one's gender if it makes them happy? If a child feels they need to transition genders, what's stopping them? Some scientists are quick to agree and even go so far as to help this child transition without giving them any proper guidance. Why should we rewrite the basic laws of human nature to form a delusion? The problem lies not with someone doing something to make them happy, but instead making decisions for a child who is not yet at the age to make lasting decisions that will affect the rest of their lives. Many people in the United States do not even know what makes a man or a woman a woman. And during the duration of Matt Walsh's writing his book, What is a Woman?, he goes around the world asking the same simple question, what is a woman? And during one interview, he asked a biological male that same question, what is a woman? This man looked confused, almost like he had never heard of the word woman, or like he had never even known that the word male or female was written on a birth certificate. If we as a society are so ignorant to even realize there are two genders and accept this, why are we changing the very thing God has given us? Are we so confused as a society that we cannot even acknowledge the fluidity of two genders? We were warned about this in Deuteronomy 23:1. This reality that promotes perversion and confusion of right and wrong is wrong. Helena Keshner, a 24-year-old female, wrote a paper on her experiences with gender-affirming care. She explains how, when taken to see a doctor about her gender dysphoria, in less than an hour, she was told by a nurse practitioner she needed to transition genders. She was instantly given twice the normal dose of medicine to aid in her transitioning, and soon after, the surgery to do so. At the age of 18, Helena Keshner transitioned genders. Many in the trans community rely on the argument born that way. This looks past all biological norms and focuses solely on someone's mental state. And there is a misconception based on the argument trans rights are human rights. Some feel they should be treated better than others simply because of their beliefs. A trans man expects to be able to share a bathroom next to a little girl. This creates unsafe scenarios where that same girl has to live with the nightmares of sharing a bathroom next to a grown man. The suicide rate among transgenders ranges from 32 to 50%. These percentages are often blamed on the abusers, such as healthcare systems, police brutality, parents, along with many other things. But this is anything but right. Social media plays an even greater role in this number. Social media is telling and convincing children they need to transition genders when they do not yet know what makes a man or a woman a woman. Some adults cannot even distinguish this difference. One may ask, who gives us the right to judge others? After all, who does? John 7:24 states, judge not by appearance, but by righteous judgment. We are to lead our children down a path of righteousness, but the trans community is pushing for the opposite of this. One day, a girl went into a hair salon. She was uncomfortable with what she thought was a man working next to her. Naturally, she was in the women's section. This man had a full-grown beard, a bald head, and now she looked bigger than all the other females next to her. She had every right to believe that this was not a woman. When she addressed the administration that she was uncomfortable with a man working next to her, they told her that it was okay for him to be there because he had recently transitioned into a female. Later that day, this same man had posted on social media that he was a victim of transgender bullying. This case provides a point of reasoning and gives us two options. Either we are to agree with an unnatural lifestyle or go down one that is full of hatred towards humanity. Either way, children are facing the brunt of these arguments and are at odds on what to choose: a, a lifestyle that is full of freedom and being whatever you want, or one that so called hates humanity and is full of judgment. If we are to work together in areas of business, we need to make we need to strive to make a more suitable world for our children to live in, one that is led by the teachings of God and not by the likes of man. 100-year-old World War II U.S. veteran once said, "The things we did and the things we fought for and the boys that died for it, it's all gone down the drain." We, as a society, need to consider what changing our genders will mean for our children and even those who have died fighting for it, who have died fighting for it, who have died fighting for our freedoms that we so selfishly enjoy every single day. We need to lead our children down a path of virtue and bestow upon them the very wisdom that we have so hardly learned in our time living. If we do not change this path we are on, we may lead to a if we do not change this path we are on, we may risk a pure relationship with God. Thank you. Oh my God. Open the floor. Questions?
In your research, did you read of any percentage of those who transgendered that eventually regretted what they had decided?
No, I actually did not see that. It's actually kind of a really hard topic, or a really hard percentage for someone to kind of gauge on, because there's a lot of people that honestly aren't even, you don't even know, because I feel like the media is hiding a lot of these people, so it's kind of hard to even give a direct number on that. But I feel like there's probably a pretty good bit of people that feel that they regret it, you know.
So it seems as if the prevalence of those claiming gender dysphoria has risen exponentially over the past 10 years. It used to be under 1%.
Yep.
Now it's around 15%, especially among females, which is odd and interesting. Why do you think that has happened in the last 2 years?
Well, so I guess to give you kind of a timeline, around World War II, the first kind of trans, I guess you can say, father of trans ideology came into place. It was a German who kind of made he was the first person who started giving people who could let them transition. And this guy eventually got his whole institution got burned down by Hitler and everything. But so then kind of that moved to America, and it's steadily over the time as uh, social media and kind of phones and internet has become a thing. More people are seeing that maybe there's a progressive lifestyle that invokes being whatever you want, or one that you can forever be happy in, that's not full of judgment and hatred towards others. I feel like that's what kind of this community is trying to push for. They're trying to show that that's a better lifestyle than the one that we naturally are going down. That kind of answers you.
And then the second question I have is, when you deal with these issues on a broad philosophical level, there's a lot of clarity there. But when you notice someone who's struggling with gender dysphoria, it's really hard. And I'm curious, how would you recommend that we interact with someone struggling with gender dysphoria?
Well, I think there's kind of two ways you can look at this. You can look at this from a perspective of someone who's a believer and who's not of a believer. A believer, I feel like you need to kind of, it's like the Bible verse I stated, Deuteronomy 23:1, "He who hath been wounded in stones, have his prayer member cut off, shall not be entered to the congregation of the Lord." Now, those were laws affecting Israel, and they're not in place anymore. But I feel like if, from a biblical standpoint, if someone's a believer and you kind of address them about this, you need to try to make them realize that, hey, maybe God has meant for us not to do this, and we need to realize this is a bad thing. And if you're from the standpoint, that you're not a believer, I think that the best kind of course we could do this on is using science as the best kind of persuading tactic, and just kind of help them kind of go through this path. You need to show them that you're either born male or female, and there's kind of no way around this. So we need to stick with what we were originally born with. If that answers your question. Yes, for sure. I actually forgot to talk about something in my. Well, I forgot about a few things, but one of them, it was kind of like this is what I kind of said is that if some scientists cannot even accept the kind of the if they cannot keep their Hippocratic oath and simply stated that if they cannot keep the biological norms that have been created since the beginning of time, they should be held accountable for this. And in those ways, I do not really know how they would be held accountable, but they should most definitely be accountable and maybe even losing their job since they are breaking their Hippocratic oath that they swore to protect the world and help people, or not help people get through things. That kind of answers your question.
Can you elaborate on some of the
There's not really a lot of regulations because there's really nothing against it. Or there's no like regulations that are against it right now because, well, in some states there definitely are. I think that basically a kid under a certain age cannot transition. You have to be a certain age to do so. But I know in California, like I mean, they're full supporting of this, and anyone who wants to, they can. So I don't. There's not in a lot of the states. There's not really any regulations saying whether or not you can or can't. I think it's kind of a blank space in some states in America at least. hmm So the thing is, maybe this is kind of like this is a kind of far-reaching idea of mine, I guess. But I'm like maybe the government is trying to use this as something to kind of give them a further they're trying to use this as an example or kind of something to help them further something to do what they feel is right. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to.
Well, can I rephrase Max's question?
Okay.
I think he and I asked the same question. So, and I'll just give you what you write in your paper. Strangely, the government has an unusual interest in those lacking biological knowledge. Maybe it's because they can use this as a facade to do something else, or maybe the government is just simply trying to do the right thing, or at least what they think is right. Maybe they just want to be in control. And so I guess the question is, what is to be gained by deconstructing the most basic laws of human nature?
That's a great question. I me personally, I really wouldn't think there was anything to be gained other than someone simply having the freedom to do. They're not held accountable for something, and they have the freedom to do whatever they want. I think that's kind of what people think is to be gained. They could freedom to do whatever they want. They don't have anyone telling them no. They just, I mean, that's kind of how our lifestyle is today. If no one wants to be told no, they kind of just want to be able to do whatever they want. And even something so radical as changing your gender as a child, like when you're a child, you feel a lot of things and that you do and don't want to do, and parents are there to help you kind of tell you no, this is wrong, this is right. But I feel like a lot of people now in today's age are not telling these kids no, and so they think they can kind of do whatever they want, and they want to be able to do whatever they want. That kind of answers the question.
Yeah, no, I really
um, really, I guess it's kind of over the years, just more I've been on social media, say Instagram or something. I just constantly seeing videos of some just outrageous things, and kind of like what I said is just crazy things. Like there's so much going on today's age, but it's kind of like the where I talked about how someone goes to a college campus holding up controversial signs. I've always watched videos like that where someone will go saying trans rights are not human rights, stuff like that, and that's just really made me grow an interest because in a lot of those, the people are kind of they don't know how to respond in a way that makes them seem like they know anything about their own beliefs, and it kind of makes them lack knowledge on it. I feel like the people who support the trans beliefs, see what I'm saying? But uh, yeah, I forgot your question. I'll be honest.
So you mentioned earlier that they use the idea of like these kids have depression, so
Mhm.
the answer is they must transgender, change their gender, it'll make them happier, right?
Mhm.
Do you know that these people who have changed their gender, has it cured the depression? Have they been happier, or has it?
I don't have an exact number, but I know in a lot of cases I've read that it's kind of supporting my view. A lot of people have, they've gone through that and they've been happy for a little bit because, like I said, they get what they want. They get to be whatever they want, and that makes them happy. But in the long term, it's kind of like Chloe Cole, how she wishes she could nurse a child or just simply have feminine characteristics like she once had. I feel like anyone who transitioned longs for that feeling and they want that, but they can't have it anymore because they realize what they've done is they've messed up, and that. All right, so no further questions. Thank you for your time.